Well, another tough Sunday for your Las Vegas Raiders, falling to the Kansas City Chiefs 27-20. Eddie Paskal here in the fifth quarter, presented by Twitch with my guy, Brice Butler. And Duffel, I feel kind of, what's they say, like insanity is like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? Like, I feel like a majority of the times that we've talked this season, I've asked you a question, and then you have given me an answer to that question. But it feels like it's the same question week after week after week. So let me again, as we sit here on October 27th, ask you this question, Brice. That first drive, and we're going to hit on this first drive a lot. This opening drive for the Raiders, great, balanced. Minshew is, let me just double check my math here, 5 of 5, rolling, good balance, right? Running the ball a little bit more than you're throwing it, but everything looks good. You go down, you march down the field, and you get a touchdown. And we scream, we say, this is it. This is the picture of what we want it to be offensively.
Yep.
And then it goes away. Brice, where does it go?
I don't know. That's funny that you asked that question. And obviously, we have been talking about this week after week. In the beginning, in the inception of the game today, we had extra family over the house. We're watching the game. They score, we score. Family members are like, oh, like the Raiders looking like they're gonna do something today. And I was like, hold on. That was the first drive. We do that every week. We go down there and drive, we score. It looks good. So to the outside eye, like you guys, it looks like we're about to do something. I was like, we have to wait until the offensive coach gets off the script. Because every time the script goes out the way, it seems like we don't know what we're doing as far as like offensive play calling. And I mean, even to that, I feel like on our second drive, it was solid too. Like you said, Minshew was looking good. He was like 8 of 9, I think.
Yeah, he opened 8 of 8. Yeah, he opened 8 of 8
Yeah, he
today.
looked really good. And then it turns into like, let's try to rely on our defense to like make more stops than like our offense can score. I really don't know the answers to the question either. You want to point blame at coaches for play calling, but then at the same time, like the players have to be accountable too. You know what I'm saying? Like the offensive line have to get together and protect a little bit better from Minshew. Minshew has to know if there's more guys than we can protect, we have to get the ball out sooner. You know what I'm saying? And the other guys have to make plays on the back end. So it's a full effort, but the guys have to figure out what it is that they need to do to try to continue we start fast every week. We just have to figure out how to continue that motion, that momentum, and that rhythm throughout the whole game.
Okay, so here's a question, right? And to kind of flip the question that we've now asked ourselves, 4 of the last 5 weeks, whatever it is, Brice. So offensively, right, you and I have talked a lot in the post game about the script, right, and the understanding of the script and the offense. The guys on offense go into Sunday, they go into a game day knowing what to expect. This is what it's going to look like. This is going to feel like, et cetera, et cetera. Defensively, right, like I guess what is the role? Like if you're the Chiefs defense, right, on that first drive, and obviously the Raiders march down the field, they do their thing. Raiders end up scoring a touchdown. Like defensively for the Chiefs. Like, do you adjust off of those first 15 plays at all? Like, I guess, how does the defense respond knowing that, hey, these first 15 are going to be scripted and then it's going to kind of go a little different?
No, I don't think the defense is like, because the defense, they're not really scripting plays like that, right?
Yeah.
The defense is more reaction, right? So it's like, hey, they're lined up in trips, 3-by-1 bunch. Okay, this is the checks to this if we're in cover 1 or we're in robber or we're in 3, right? 3 sky. Like this is how we check to that. So typically the defense is just reacting. They're not really going, all right, we think, they only had 8-play script. The script is over, so now we need to change, right? I think from a team perspective, Eddie, they look at it like, hey, we're playing the Raiders. They start fast, but they kind of start to taper off. All right, so when they start to taper off, this is what we have to do to kind of like punish them, put them in the dirt. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's how we take advantage of their ebbs and flows. When they start doing this, like we have to capitalize. We have to take advantage. And honestly, I don't really believe that the Chiefs really did a whole bunch to like put the game away.
No.
I don't think from our standpoint, we capitalized on the opportunities, the really good opportunities that we had to make the game put the game in a more advantageous situation for us to win.
100%. And I think a lot of that, Brice, is going to come down to the red zone. And we're going to talk about that in a second and just the struggles for this team in the red zone on the offensive side of the football. But you talk about that game being there, right? And kind of hanging in the balance. And look, you can say whatever you want, right? At the end of the day, the Chiefs are undefeated, right? Like no one has been able to take them down yet in 2024. So give credit where credit is due. But we talked about Minshew's hot start, right? Minshew starts 8 for 8. He finishes 24 of 30, 209 and 2 touchdowns. Like I want to go back to that first drive for a second. And I just kind of zoomed out. Like I was talking to one of our friends up in the press box and I said, the first drive to me today feels really, this one in particular felt even more important, right? You're Gardner Minshew, you're coming off arguably one of your worst performances as a professional a week ago. You get the ball back, you're down 7-0 against a really, really good Kansas City Chiefs team, against the team that won the Super Bowl, whatever it was, 10 months ago. And now you got to answer because it feels like going up there and putting nothing on the scoreboard, down 7-0. That feels like you're already living in precarious waters. But credit to Minshew, again, like we talked about, who went out there, operated the offense, went 5 for 5, handed the ball off when he needed to, and it just looked good and felt good. It was a lead blocker on one of the plays, which I was joking, like the fact that he was able to truck someone probably felt pretty good. But like, how important was that opening drive just to kind of give him a little bit of his mojo back, albeit in a losing effort this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the greatest responsibility for a quarterback is to try to have the shortest memory possible, right? If you're a guy that say you threw 2 picks and like both picks you threw, outbreaker routes to a receiver to the left side of the field, when it's nut cutting time at the end of the game and you call like a similar play, you have to be willing to cut that ball loose. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be there like, I've thrown 2 picks, throwing to the left. I got this guy on the left side. I don't want to throw the ball. So I think out of all the positions on the field, maybe with the exception of the kicker, quarterbacks have to have the shortest memory, out of most of the players because, like you said, you had a bad game last week. You come out this week, Patty Mahomes does Patty Mahomes things, goes down there and drives it on you, scores 7-0. You could be like, oh shoot, we got the Super Bowl champs, they're 6-0, but you have to be like, nah, like let's go out there and play. Like I'm playing quarterback on this side too. Like I can get it done in victory. You get what I'm saying? Like that's what the other 31 quarterbacks in the league are trying to do every week. And Gardner Minshew has to figure that out because, he's our guy right now. And like, I mean, I don't think I know Ritter came in there for a second, but we're not expecting him to play too soon. I would think, unless the coaches feel otherwise. But from the outside looking in, I don't think we're expecting DR to go out there and play right now. So Minshew has to figure out a way to keep the game flowing and try to stay in rhythm and try to stay above the chains as the game plays.
Yeah, and I think by and large, Brice, I mean, going back to a week ago, a week ago Sunday or a week ago today, like it was all those forcing it, right? And Minshew finishes the day with 3 interceptions, the 4 total turnovers, and that was kind of the theme of the week is like it just feels like he's pushing, he's trying to do a little bit too much. And today, by and large, it felt like he was playing kind of within the confines of the offense, and certainly it didn't end up the way that the Silver and Black wanted it to, but I don't think it's fair or just or living in a world of reality to say, hey, the reason the Raiders lost today is because of what Gardner Minshew did. I do want to talk about, though, Brice, and you and I were texting during the game, the red zone. Like, to me, this was a game that came down to missed opportunities, and it came down to the red zone. You look at what the Chiefs were able to do in the red zone in terms of their red zone efficiency. They go 3 of 4. The Raiders go 2 of 4. And really, in a game that's determined by 7 points, you don't want to say that's all of it, but you look at that Trayvon Merrick interception, brings it all the way back down, and you got to the 3. You got to find a way to get points there. You have to 100% in 2024 in the NFL find a way to get points there, and the Raiders just they couldn't.
Yeah, I think, Eddie, what they were trying to do, we always talk about identity, wanting to be a tough and physical football team. And, I sent you that text, like, why did we run the ball 3 times in a row and then try to do a play action pass on the 4th play? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But, going to the coach's situation is like, hey, we're on the 3. We got to get 3 yards, right? And you expect that your players can go out there and do it. And to me, that's when that's on the players, where it's like, hey, that offensive front, why the coach, the guys made that decision. Hey, let's try to run it down their throat to get these 3 yards. Cause it's like one of those things where if we do get those 3 yards, it's a morale booster for the team. It kind of shows like, hey, that's what we've been working on in practice, goal line, short yardage. And then we went out there in the game when we needed it and we got it done. Unfortunately for us, like I said, we didn't get it. So when it came down to fourth down, it's like 3rd and 3, or 3rd and 3, basically the 3 is the goal line. And then it's like, okay, well, we didn't get to run 3 times, so now let's try to pass it. And then obviously they rushed the quarterback and we couldn't get anything done. So that was unfortunate. I mean, 50% in the red zone is not bad, but obviously when you're sitting in a position where it should have been 3 or 4 for sure, 75%, it's probably a different ball game. You got to have it.
What's how do you navigate that fine line, Brice, of we talked about, and we've talked about it a lot this year, the Raiders having this identity, having this DNA, the way that they've from jump said, hey, we want to be nasty, we want to run the ball, we want to be physical up front. It's not going to be sexy and glamorous, but like we're going to do us. While also understanding the Raiders rushed for 33 yards today, right?
Yeah.
They rushed for 5 yards in the second half. So like at what point, how do you kind of navigate understanding like this is who we want to be, but hey, maybe this is who we are today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I think the issue, I mean, if you look across the league, I mean, there's not that many teams that's like running the ball super efficiently. I mean, obviously teams like the Ravens are running the ball well, the Lions are running the ball well. Teams that have been running the ball well over the course of the course of the years are running the ball well, but now with the practicing now, like you're not really able to practice. Like even when I was playing in the league from 2013 to 2019, it's much different. You know what I'm saying? Like we had a lot of time to be able to put pads on and really get after it. And now they don't have it as much. So that's what you lose. You know what I'm saying? Like you lose that physicality of the game. And if me and you have been talking about this for years, we've been doing the fifth quarter for years, we haven't really been running the ball that well, even though we've had Josh Jacobs. Like we've been sitting here talking about, hey, like, why don't we give him the ball more? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? So if you look at our team over the last 3 to 4 years, like we really haven't been rushing the ball that great. And so now we have a new regime and they want to do this stuff, but I'm sure we don't have enough time to practice it. So now we're in a situation where it's 3rd and 3, and we can't get 3 yards because we're not able to spend a whole bunch of time in training camp. We're not able to spend a whole bunch of time in pads on really getting physical and active during the week. I'm sure now Wednesday practices aren't what they used to be. Like, and obviously every generation is different, right?
Yeah.
Like when my dad played, it was more physical. When I played, it was decently physical. And then now it's a little bit less. So I think it comes down to, the new limitations on practices and stuff, but it's going to be hard. They're going to have to just continue to grind at it. You have to put in, your small baby steps, and then hopefully by a certain time, hopefully by this year at some point, the Raiders and AP can figure out, that physical tough part of the game because we need it. Because like obviously they're abandoning it because I don't think they trust in it fully. So obviously, if we can trust in it fully, maybe we can be more successful.
Well, I think what's kind of confusing for me, Brice, is like the fact that we've seen it for a little bit, right? You
Yeah.
see it for a drive here, you see it for a quarter there, you see it for a half here, and you're like, oh man, like this is what we expected it to look like. This is what we wanted it to look like. This is kind of the aha, the lights are coming down and shining, like this is it, right? But they can't do it for 60 minutes. So I guess I just wonder sometimes, and again, I think maybe a question better asked after you have time to go really like dive into the tape and all that. But how can it be so effective, so efficient for bits, but not for really like in a sustained type of manner?
I don't know. And I just think it comes down to, the abandonment of it, man. Like, honestly, because, it was a one possession game pretty much the whole game.
Yeah.
Like, there was never a point in the game where it's like, oh, we're so far behind, let's throw the ball all over the place. I mean, Gardner Minshew was 24 of 30.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't a situation where he had to drop back 50 times and like we had to rely on trying to come back, stopping the clock, going in completions and, so on and so forth. that wasn't the game. But when you look at what we were doing, it felt like, we don't really want to run the ball. And then we were winning, at least for I think 3 quarters. We owned the time of possession. We owned the TOP. So it's like, we were sitting in a good position to where running the ball, kind of taking the time off the clock. Sorry, I can't speak right now. Taking the time off the clock, and then, methodically going down the field, throwing some play action in there. That would have helped us. That would have been better suited for us. But time in and time again, man, like, we're just that word abandonment. I got to find a different word in the thesaurus for abandonment, because like I'm using it every week and I'm getting tired of using it.
But to your point though, Brice, and I think you bring up a great point where this was a game. I'm looking at the play-by-play right now where this was a game that until 5 minutes left, just under 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it was a one-score game. Right, and so the Chiefs really kind of put this one to bed. Yes, the Raiders get that late touchdown, and then don't recover the onside kick. But really, until 4:59 in the fourth quarter, this was a one-possession game. The Raiders, we forget because it felt like a lifetime ago. The Raiders go up 10-7 in the early part of the second quarter, right? And so, to your point, like it feels like when you're in a game like this, kind of nasty, not overly pretty, right? Two defenses. I mean, like. Credit where credit's due. I think the Raiders defense really did their job today. I mean, the Chiefs finished with only 82 yards, right, on the ground. So, like, when a game that's tightly contested, it feels like you're able to do your thing on the offensive side of the football. But again, the lack of execution, the inability to run the ball effectively, it all kind of comes together. But, I do want to talk about the defense here a little bit, because this is one of those games, and I was talking to my guy Isaiah during the course of the telecast. I go, this is going to be one of those games where we're going to forget just how good the Raiders defense was, right? You look at Mahomes' stat line. He goes 27 of 38, 262. He's sacked once, throws the 2 touchdowns, yes, but Trayvon Merritt gets him for the interception. And Brice, for me, nothing really looked or felt easy for this Chiefs offense. So, like, again, credit where it's due to the defense, because today it felt like they held up, maybe not fully their part of the bargain, but a pretty darn good portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing that most defenses have to deal with when they play against the Chiefs is just Patrick Mahomes' level of brilliance, right? He figures out how to close games out and win games in different ways, I feel like, every time. And we've been seeing it, week in and week out. If you're peeping Chiefs highlights ever, like he's figuring out ways to make defensive linemen look silly, running around them in circles, it looks like, then faking a pump fake down the field, 15 yards down the field, and they're jumping and biting at it. God knows why, but he's getting first downs. And like, I think, when you watch him play today, like I was yelling at the TV a couple of times, but it's hard. Like, you're in coverage. You see Pat Mahomes running on your side. He can obviously run and get the first. You leave the guy that you're covering, then he's like right over the top, right? So, it's very difficult to make it difficult for Pat. But like you said, I mean, we did everything that we could have done to make it very hard for him, but he always just finds a way to do enough.
And I think and I think, sorry not to cut you off, Brice, but I think the one, when I'm going through the box score right now, I think the one kind of number that really stands off the kind of flies off the page to me is, as well as the Raiders defense played today, and certainly like the past couple of weeks, you could talk any type of, you could kind of tell whatever story you want about that defense. But the one thing that was kind of undebatable was how good the defense was on third down. Well, today, Chiefs go 12 of 16 on third down, right? 75% on third down. And that, dude, look, and we can speak openly and honestly here. That's not going to cut it against a Patrick Mahomes led offense. If you're giving them all these extra opportunities, at some point Mahomes and the greatness of the Chiefs offense is going to come to the party, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, dude, third down 75%, red zone 75%. Like, like,
yeah,
16 third downs. So that's third in everything, right? Long, medium, and shorts. and they got 75% to our 50%. And like honestly, 50% is not bad. That's really good. 6 for 13 is not bad at all. But yeah, man, like you can't Patrick Mahomes like a cat with 9 lives, man. Like you have to take his lives away early. You have to take him away. And if you give him 75% of third downs, he's gonna make you pay for it.
I think the big one too, Brice, and we see it and we hear it all the time about, Andy Reid and kind of this Chiefs team, right? The offense, obviously Steve Spagnuolo doing his things on defense, but their ability to adjust, right? Their ability to kind of make you uncomfortable, to keep you off kilter. And I think the biggest kind of example of that today is Brock Bowers' stat line. I mean, because Brock Bowers finishes his afternoon, sorry, as I lost my place on our stats book here.
Five catches for 58.
Thank you. 5 for 58. But 3 of those in the first quarter and then 1 early in the second, right? So you're looking at halftime as I scroll, because I actually know where this one is. You look at Brock Bowers' line at halftime. So he's 3 for 39 at the half. So that means in the second half, he had 2 catches. And look, it was great to have Jacoby Myers back today. I think that seeing him and that connection with Gardner Minshew and adding a little veteran stability to that wide receiver room cannot be overstated as we go through the second half of 2024. But make no mistake about it, like Brock Bowers is the guy right now. Like he is the dude. So to be held to 2 catches in the second half, I mean, I hate to say it, but like credit to the Chiefs defense for figuring out a way to take this dude away because he has been incredible all through 2024. And he was looking to kind of do that again today. And then come halftime, whatever the Chiefs were doing, they said, it's not going to be this today.
Yeah, and then some of that I think has to do with like, where we were getting the ball and the situations, right? Like we just talked about getting the ball on the 3-yard line, and not being able to punch it in. That if just say we got the ball, they punted it to like the 45, maybe Brock has more opportunities to, make some catches. But hats off to them. Spagnola, I mean, they showed a stat during the game today, just showing, the defenses, their points allowed over the years that he's been the defensive coordinator. And every year it goes down and down and down and down.
Yeah.
So they're making those adjustments. And, when you go out there and play, it's a chess game. If they make an adjustment, you have to make an adjustment. You have to be a couple steps ahead of them. And if they're taking them away where you typically like to put them, you got to figure out a way to put them somewhere else, to get the matchups that you like. And, we got outplayed, outcoached, outthought, and they got us.
They did. They sure did. Just a few interesting kind of Brock Bowers stats, because it feels like every week now we get kind of another just kind of crazy bunch of numbers that show how impressive what he's doing in the grand scheme of things. Brock Bowers now has passed Darren Waller for the most receptions by a Raiders tight end through the first 8 games of a single season. What else do we got? So much Brock Bowers. Brock is the first tight end in NFL history to have 50-plus receptions through 8 career games. He now has 20-plus 10-yard catches this season, most by any tight end in the NFL. This is a dude who is just like, whatever he's doing, man, it's working. And I think that going forward, like within reason, like you just got to find a way to let this guy eat, right? Like you got to find a way to get the ball in his hands and let him cook in some way, shape, or form, because when he gets those opportunities, man, he has been awesome in 2024, especially for a rookie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the challenge would just be, figuring out how to put him in different scenarios to get the ball. You look at teams like that have guys like Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra St. Browns, guys that that are going to get the ball. But their coaches do a great job in putting him in different places to where the defense, has to keep an eye on them, but they're not used to seeing him there to get him open. That's going to be the challenge, I think, with the team moving forward for Brock, because you don't want to be in a situation to where, like today, where he catches 4 balls in in the first half, and then the second half he catches 1, and he's basically, not even doing anything. Brock is a guy that you need at least catching 2 to 3 passes a quarter, if possible. So, yep, that'll be the challenge for Brock. You just got to figure out a way to get him the ball, figure out a way to move him around, get the favorable matchup, get picks and all that stuff going, because you can't just really throw him, screens all the time and short passes. You got to figure out a way to get him down the field as well.
Yeah, big time. Well, Brice, let's kind of zoom out, right? Raiders lose 27-20. You're now sitting at 2-6. You lost 4 games in a row. You're headed east this weekend, or I guess next weekend, I should say, to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. The one thing that I think the Raiders really have going in their favor is the fight is there, the effort is there. When you have a guy like Max Crosby, like there's not going to be any of this hanging of the heads or, oh, woe is us, or, oh, let's pack it up and try it again next year, right? Like Max is just not going to let, like that's not who he is. Like anyone who's trying to be about that, like Max is going to make sure you are not about that for very long. But in a realistic sense, like, what do the Raiders need to do to kind of get out of this funk, right? Because you've been in locker rooms before, right, where you kind of go through a losing streak and there's that feeling of it, that heaviness. Like, what do the Raiders need to do to kind of bounce back and kind of right this ship quick, fast, in a hurry?
I mean, the simplest answer would be a three-letter word, and it's win.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a lot of things that come to that, come with that, but it's win, dog. Like that's the only way that's gonna get you out of that rut. That's the only thing that's gonna get you out of that feeling of doubt when it's fourth quarter, one possession game, and maybe we fumbled the ball and then we give the other team the ball back late in the game. Like that's what keeps the faith, right? Being able to prove to yourself that you can win those tight games, those one possession games, those field goal games. That's what gets it out of you. But in the meantime, you have to figure out your weaknesses, the coaches, the players, you got to figure out those things and try to address them in practice, address them in the meeting rooms, and then just go out and try to execute to the best of your ability. And that means moving as, one unit. You know what I'm saying? Finishing every play, finishing every practice, trying to minimize the mistakes, minimize the penalties, the things that can hold you back, the things that take you from a first down to a 1st and 20. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that you have to work on because it's the little things that can hold you back from these wins. Like we're talking about it right now. This game, it was 27-20. And basically, even though like, yes, they spreaded it out a little bit in the fourth quarter, like that was the game. It was one possession, the whole game. It was one possession. And what is the difference between, us winning and us losing? Let's just pick out, let's zoom out. Let's pick out two plays. We got to pick, when the Patriots, Patrick Mahomes was backed up. We got to pick. We put it on the third. We don't punch it in. We don't even get points. We don't punch it in. Then we're coming out on a drive, and then we fumble the ball, within the goal zone, and then they make they capitalize off that. You know what I'm saying? It's just small little things, Eddie. It's always small little things. You come home one day, wife comes home from work, she asks you to wash the dishes. You didn't wash the dishes, and she had a tough day at work. Now she comes home, sees a full stack of dishes. You about to get a mouthful.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. It's always little things that spoil over the top. So you just got to figure it out. It's not the end of the world. You got to tighten it up. And, from a player standpoint, you always kind of feel the heat of what's going on by your coach and like how he addresses you. So hopefully AP being a guy that played and he's been in these situations before, he can stay the course and not feel the outside pressure of like, keeping a job and all this. And then like that, I've seen it with coaches a lot where the outside forces of the pressure and the talk starts to come out in his talk to the team. And that's kind of like when you can lose your players, you know what I'm saying? Because, it's supposed to be all of us in this room, not the outside forces, kind of constricting us. Even though we know it's there, we feel it. Obviously, that's the nature of the business. We want to try to keep it to where we're focused on, going out, putting our best foot forward every week so we can go out and try to win a game.
Yeah, and dude, like I said, I mean, I think the fact that you have a guy like Max Crosby in that locker room who's not going to allow any doubt, who's not going to allow any kind of second guessing of himself, of the team at large, like I think he becomes one of the most important dudes in that locker room in a moment like this when you've lost 4 games in a row and you're trying to kind of figure it out. And again, with the trip to the East Coast coming up here in just a week, and we see the numbers every year, Brice, about how hard it is to win when you're a West Coast team heading east. But I think I just want to hit on this real quick because you said it is like those little things, right? It's those 2 plays, right? Gardner Minshew fumbles, Chiefs are able to take advantage. Trayvon Merrick has an interception. Raiders aren't able to take advantage. And it's equally encouraging, but also equally frustrating and disappointing that it is that. Like, it comes down to those two little moments. But again, that's why the NFL is one of the most competitive leagues in the entire world, and that's why we watch every single Sunday. Well, Duffel, before I let you go, I know you are a busy, busy, busy man. What are you working on? Where can the people find you? What do we need to keep our eyes out for, my friend?
Hey, we got some stuff. We got some heat coming out with the team over at Sports Illustrated. It's going to drop soon. We've been shooting some episodes of some shows with some of the greatest athletes in the world. Excited for that stuff to come out. Kind of embargo-ish right now, so can't really talk too much.
I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Duffel's working on a lot of stuff, but you can find me in all the socials at Brice_Butler, Brice with an I_Butler. And the content will be pushed out heavily as much as possible.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I also love every chance I get to hang out with you, man. Granted, not the best circumstance today, again, as the Raiders fall 27-20 to the Kansas City Chiefs, dropping to 2-6 in the process. But we live to fight another day. Up next for the Silver and Black, we've talked about it a little bit, a trip east to take on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So it doesn't get any easier for the Silver and Black. But again, you got to trust the guys in the locker room. You got to trust that staff that it's going to get figured out. It's going to get better. So for Eddie Paskal, my guy Brice Butler, everyone else at Silver and Black Productions, Raider Nation, enjoy the week, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, for our next episode, our last episode before the bye of the fifth quarter, presented by Twitch.